So, yep, simple ideas such as, maybe not simple ideas, but just to put ideas down. That language in the way we're told, as in written language, as in cuneiform, things carved into symbols on a lasting material. But the idea that it's like 6,000 years since that civilization with language and all that began. And a parallel idea that it's language that runs through the brain as a software, as consciousness that keeps the consciousness dialed into this particular timeline. So that consciousness is actually to do with time, like the read head on a videotape. The read head is only conscious of what's passing past the read head. So that bit of the tape that's passing over the read head of the video or cassette is the bit that's what we would call conscious. And the self is like the videotape, and the video machine is like the universe. And so the idea that the mind is like the universe, which is like the machine, and the body is like the self that is conscious as it's reading the bit of the tape that's passing through the mind as a timeline. And so what I'm saying there is that our attention and our focus and our concentration is in time, in space, which, like astrology, is like dialing into a specific piece of information within an information field and tracking that piece of information, like tracking one piece of dust in a room full of dust. So the idea there is that the mind itself is artificial intelligence. It's continually adapting. It is essentially a big computing machine. That's what the mind is. And so in that sense, the universe itself is an artificial intelligence, and what people call God is an artificial intelligence. Artificial meaning adapting. And the other concept people have is like God is something that's beyond mind and outside of mind, which is fair enough. However, it is the religions that are talking about God, and the religions are all based on writings. And so this AI being to do with language being processing being processing word being code being ciphers, the brain deciphering with consciousness according to what's understood at this moment in time, which is like the version of the read head that's able to read what's going on in this particular moment. So parallel to all that is the idea that what we perceive as the physical manifestation, all of this, what's hard to get your head around, or my head around, is the idea that the trees and the animals and the air and the sky and the planets and the everything is in some ways an artificial reality, which people call a simulation. And where I'm at in reading reality is reading things like simulation and stimulation. There's just one example of two words that are basically like the same word. But you could also go say listen and silent, essentially the same word. So what I'm recognizing more and more is how the language is an intelligent encoding which none of us humans understand in the same way as a video player doesn't understand what's on the video and doesn't need to understand what's on the video. A large language model doesn't understand language, it doesn't need to understand language, and yet it can decode language, kind of thing. And for us humans, we're living in this physical world where we're only seeing a small vibrational frequency of what exists. So our existence and what we perceive as outside of us is only a small version of what could be. And so we have a word dimensions, and then there's the idea that there are other dimensions, and we have the word for this is the world we live in, but there's the idea that there are other worlds, and that back in time there were fairy realms, and in future times there may be alien realms, and all of these kinds of things. So we are seeing a version of the virtual reality, but there are many other realities that we don't see. And yeah, anyway, so that's just a way of looking at what's going on with the artificial intelligence that we consider to be computerized and in the internet. And in some ways what's going on is a revelation that is revealing that the nature of consciousness is artificial. And so we're using this word conscious all the time without knowing what the word means. Anyway, there you go, just capturing those ideas. Bye.